the last 6 months, I've spoken to many cybersecurity folks, and they haven't implemented, AI into their workflows. And I'm like, you're going to get left behind. Just imagine, Ron, 3 months ago to now, it's like a growth spurt when you're a teenager. Things are happening. Things are moving fast. You're writing 30,000 lines of code in a weekend. You have to wake up. You have to make sure that you implement and have widespread adoption, not just on your day-to-day, but through your emails, through your phones. It has to be integrated.
Who says tech can't be human?
What's going on, Hacker Valley fam? Welcome back to the show. This year I've been talking a lot about AI. I've been bringing on a lot of people and they've been talking a lot about AI. And I promise you all one thing on the subject of AI, that I would be bringing back someone that shared their 2025 predictions. They said that they predicted this is the year of the agent. So I had to bring back Marco Figueroa to bring back up the conversation. If you haven't seen the other 2 episodes that Marco was on this year, please look them up. But for those that don't know, Marco is the program manager at the Odin program by Mozilla, and also someone that I've been knowing for at least 15 years. Marco, welcome back.
Thank you, sir. I think maybe we change my name to Mystic Mark because I predict these things. Because I predict these things. Am I predicting every episode we've recorded? I've kind of predicted the next step of what's going to happen potentially in weeks or months, and it's come true. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to share more news, and a lot of more info is going to be had on this episode.
Oh, yeah. So let's jump right into it. The first thing that I wanted to do was bring up some news. What I have in front of me here is this man found guilty of planting an infinite logic bomb on ex-employer's system. This is published by Graham Cluley. If you don't know Graham Cluley, definitely check him out, and also his podcast, cybersecurity. But most importantly, this article talks about this man in the great state of Texas, where I'm hosting this podcast from at this very moment, who was found guilty because he implanted on his employer's network a infinite loop logic bomb. And what this logic bomb did was ultimately ate up system resources and kept their network hanging.
Yikes.
What's your take on this one?
I tell you, it's very interesting because many people are going to be laid off this year, especially with all the AI that's really being rolled out. Mm-hmm. And you have to make sure that you secure the network and make sure who you're laying off. You make sure you cut the ties extremely quick. This is time. In Silicon Valley, once you give your 2-week notice, they usually just clip the ties right there and then.
Right.
And shut you down.
Companies like Walmart doesn't play that game.
It's something that you always have to think about. You always have to monitor. You always have to look at it, because this gentleman could really, one person disgruntled could just go ahead and ruin or halt operations for a company. Or a disgruntled employee. I remember I was working at a large organization. There was one person emailed the entire company and just went in on the CEO. So, you have things like that. You have to put protections in place and make sure that things like this do not happen. And it's very hard, but you have to play that brown bag scenario. What happens if, and these are the things that you're going to see. I think he's going to be facing like 10 years in jail. So, it's very interesting.
The big takeaway from me for this one is, how would you find it if someone were to do this? And fortunately for this organization that got hacked by their own employee, he named it after himself. He said, "Is DL enabled in AD?" That was the name of this job that was running, that was ultimately eating up all these resources. I wonder, especially, we work together at large companies.
Yeah,
Do you think that we would have been able to find something like this if it wasn't so obviously named?
absolutely not. Not at the large corporation that we worked in. It's too big. It's very hard. I mean, if it's something extremely obvious, right, and you could trace it down and then you have the audit trails to do so, potentially, yeah. But if you have what's the difference between a insider threat and someone, that creates something that looks like an adversary? You'll easily confuse them,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it is very difficult, but this is why you have to put certain things in place to make sure that you're constantly monitoring what is important. Obviously, having your business resources compromised and it not delivering services costs a lot of money, and that's an issue.
I think that, stuff like this is really exciting to me right now, especially with our conversations that we've been having on camera, off camera, with this being the year of the agents, because this is not a task that a lot of people are going to set out to do on themselves. They had to get the DOJ involved. They had to get prosecutors. Maybe they have some cybersecurity insurance. But when I look at looking for tedious stuff like this, is there a script in my environment that's constantly eating up my resources or running up my AWS bill? I don't have the manpower to have set someone out and just look for random stuff. But when you look at agents, especially looking into security, maybe there's that opportunity to look for some of these random things if you were to do a war game and found out your capabilities suck for finding insider threat.
Yeah, it's very hard to find these things. I wrote a blog on a incident that I worked on, that there was an actor that what they did, we weren't going to go ahead and track this person down, but it was innovative, right? All he did was want to steal AWS resources so then he could run a Monero miner on there. So
Mm-hmm.
they're just stealing power, right? And it was very well crafted. If you just put my name, Mark Figueroa space Monero, it'll probably pop up in Google. But what they did was he had a JPEG and then he had a script, stenography, a bash script that ran inside of that. And once it was very small, once it ran, it then fetched more binary, Monero binary, ran it, and then he made, I want to say he made a lot of money. And it's hard to trace Monero, obviously, right? It's not
Right.
Bitcoin, so it's way harder to trace. So, you have those scenarios and you don't really know what happened until you get the bill.
This was an internal employee, or was this someone that hacked
This
into a
was, we don't
system?
know. We don't know, right? It could have been an internal employee, but I did a full work on where he hosted it, the embedded script in there. It was really genius because it was very stealthy. And what are you going to do? He stole resources, right? You're not going to trace that person down because there's no callback. He's just using power to, get money.
You
So
got your wallet connected. You don't have to log
yeah,
back in. You
let it
hands
run and
off.
go. Let it run and go.
There's a company that I work with a lot. They're named Sysdig, and one of their threat researchers was telling about this concept called freejacking. And freejacking is when you take over someone's internal resources, and then ultimately use their free tier until it's just at that $20 mark, $20 or lower, and then try to mine Bitcoin, or just steal resources and use it for your own benefit. I really like that concept because one of the things that we've been talking about is this idea of linking up many different MacBooks together to ultimately do ML training on.
Mm-hmm.
But why
Fine
not just do
tuning.
that for crypto? If you have the resources,
Yeah.
if you're an attacker.
I completely agree, right? I think the future is, I look at it as the future is how do you use even AI or something so you can make money off of it and not get tracked where these adversaries are going to use that. It's going to be much harder to figure out what's going on when you have potentially small LLMs, that are being pushed out with the malware that, they're in memory and they're figuring things out. There's a tool called Auto GDB where you could go ahead and it basically uses GDP and it takes these snapshots and uses ChatGPT to look for vulnerabilities. It's genius. So there's a lot of cool things, a lot of innovation that is happening, and you have to be up on it.
Oh, yeah. So, Mark, last time you were on, you were dropping predictions down to the week. You were saying Anthropic's got to drop a model. OpenAI is going to drop a model. And surely enough, we got 4.5 and Claude 3.7.
Yes.
What's your next prediction? What's on the horizon?
Look, first of all, I want to say I was right. And perhaps I will be right again in the future. But here's the thing. Once I knew that 4.5 was gonna come out, I knew Subnet had to come out like ASAP. They had to, right? Everyone was waiting for it. They did drop their 3.7 thinking and all that. Here's the thing, what everyone's waiting for. And there's a countdown here. When is Claude going to release search? This is something everyone's waiting for. Here's my prediction on that. In their papers, because I read every paper that is dropped, they continue to say things that make me wonder. They keep on saying, like, you know, their model goes out and potentially might be doing malicious things. That's what they kind of like hint around. So I think that is one of the big issues why you haven't seen search. But they're going to have to do that. Here's another prediction. So that's gonna come. I don't know if it's gonna come in the next month or two, but it has to come because everybody's waiting for that. And you'll see an exponential growth when it comes to Anthropic because their data is stale. If you look at when's the cutoff date, they're dealing with old stale data. That's interesting. Here's a prediction that I get a lot of pushback in. Perplexity is going to be in big trouble. You know why?
Why is that?
Every 6 months, they're raising money. They only have 40 employees. They do only have 2,500 companies that they have deals with. And it feels like they're throwing dart on the walls to look for the product market fit. What is this thing? They just partnered with T-Mobile to develop a phone. They just created another 50 million they put on the side to become venture capitalists in seed and pre-seed funds. Then they came out with their partnering with a betting company to do AI. And I get it, but it just seems like it's too much. So they're coming out with Comet, their own web browser. You have 40 employees. How are you spreading this so thin? Obviously AI, but they're a wrapper company. They wrap things over LLMs. They release Sonar, right? It's a wrapper over DeepSeek. So they're in round D. And I believe in like 3 or 4 months, maybe more, they're going to go for their round E. You only have 2 more rounds, E and F. And then people are going to see, they're going to want to see you go public. Those numbers, I bet, don't look good. So my prediction is you're going to see some heat coming onto Perplexity because they haven't found their real niche, at least to me, from the outside looking in. If I was an investor, I would be like, what? 40 employees, you spending every week, you're announcing something that is not your core. Why? You got all of these users. You have 10 million users. Why aren't you taking all of that data and fine-tuning a model like DeepSeek? They should have been the DeepSeek. They should have been the DeepSeek. So I think in the future, this year, I'm not saying in the next 4 or 5 months, you're going to see them potentially have issues or make announcements that you're going to be scratching your head with. Now, with that being said, everybody's looking at China because they're cutting prices and there's a pricing war there. So I gave you 3 or 4 things to think about. And I do not believe that OpenAI is going to come out with their agents that they're saying that they're going to be selling for $10,000 to $20,000. It's going to be hard for me to see a lot of people buying in when you're seeing all of these cuts from AI companies and chips, so on and so forth. So it is an interesting thing. And I believe you're going to see more features from these frontier models. And it's just going to be really feature rich because what I'm hearing, I watch a lot of interviews on these top guys that saying they're running out of data and creating things. So I think you're going to start seeing a lot of more little features that they're going to make, trying to make big splashes on. That is a game changer. So watch out for that one as well.
Those are some good predictions. I like them all, and they sound about right. When you said Claude needed to drop a new model, I was feeling the same thing after using Claude 3.5 for I want to say like 6 months. Just this latest version. I think the last one came out in like July or August. So it was too long. One of the things though that I'm curious about is the Perplexity future. I was just at a conference and someone said that they stopped using Google and now they're only using Perplexity. They do train their own model as well, but it's a fine-tuned llama. So maybe they're just betting on the wrong horse.
You could look at this two ways. One, I like that they only have 40 employees. They're keeping that head count down. But then on the flip side, they should be in the hyper growth stage because they're already in that round D where you should have 100, 200 employees. And then, like I said, these announcements, at least to me, doesn't make sense. You're doing all these things and you're capturing attention, right? But is it the right attention you want to be known for? Like partnering with a company that places bets, I'm not sure if that is moving the needle or not.
I feel like that is the most competitive bet around are you right or are you not. Like people love sports betting. I like sports betting. I can't do it because I'm in Texas. You can't do it online. But I think that's one of those smart areas to do predictions on. You know, if it's not sports betting, then it's the stock market or the crypto market.
Yeah, you're always betting on something.
Exactly.
You're always don't get it twisted. You're betting that you're going to hit a goal. You're betting that you're going to get a good raise. You know. So
what I love about Perplexity is it's a bug bounty researcher's paradise because I was doing this keynote circuit for October Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and one of the things that I was showing the audiences was how easy it is to find information about someone online, write a fake phishing email. So off of just one prompt, I went to Perplexity. It said, write Ron Eddings an email about wanting to help him with his company, Hacker Valley Media. It had my LinkedIn pulled up, my YouTube page. It had some information about like me on Facebook. And it wrote this perfect email off of just like this one prompt, specifically destined for me. And like I was showing the audience like how easy it is to just copy and paste that and just go straight to your attack.
Look, I haven't used Perplexity in months, and I knew one thing was for sure. Once you have these foundational models that will put in the feature like search, why am I going to use Perplexity? Your model isn't as good as the frontier models. What's the thing? And like I said, if you haven't used Grok, you make sure you pay for it because it is out of this world. In terms of speed, I don't even know how it's so fast at delivering these the results. So, I mean, I knew once everyone caught up with the search, it was just going to be a matter of time. And I was like, they probably should have sold once these features started coming out, and they could easily sell off to Amazon because Jeff Bezos is massively invested in them. 2 different rounds invested in them. You have Nvidia that has invested in them, and SoftBank has invested in them. At least over $1 billion. Their valuation is $9 billion. And yeah, it's going to be a very, very interesting ride. I have my popcorn waiting to see what's going to happen over the next 6 months, and it's going to be a good ride for them.
I want to believe in Perplexity so bad. I liked Perplexity a lot a few months ago, and I kind of fell out of it. I fell out of it because Google introduced their AI into the searches, and then in the beginning, it was embarrassing what Google did by releasing that AI search feature, and then it started to get better and better. Now with OpenAI and Grok 3 and Gemini having deep research, I think that they're getting better. I still think Perplexity has the best AI search capabilities, but that window and that gap is definitely closing in.
It's closing. It's closing. And not only that, I think everyone forgot that Google was recommending what was it, rocks as meatballs or whatever to eat.
We forgot already.
Yeah, we forgot it. We have TikTok brain here. Listen, they're gonna have to innovate and do something big, big. That's it. That's their. These little side missions are a waste of time. That's all. Period.
DeepSeek, are they dropping a new model?
You know, you could only surprise someone once, and they got their shine. They got their look. The only thing I think in the future that they're going to surprise people with is just pricing. These prices are ridiculous when it comes to Anthropic and ChatGPT. Now, like I said, if Grok comes in and drops some prices, I don't think they are. But once they have the API, everybody's going to swap over. I'm telling you, if you use the UI, you just got to marvel at the speed, at the accuracy. They got the crown and they have it in a chokehold. They're not going to give it up. And once the API comes, you'll see. You'll see. Trust me on that. Trust me on that. You're going to be like, Marco was right. And people that are looking at it, just look at the pricing. If Grok comes in and even does half the price or comes in just a little bit below, you're going to see. I think it's not going to be below because of the valuation and what's going on, the temperature of surrounding Elon and what's going on with him.
Hey.
But it's the name of the game. It sucks to have a Tesla. I was going to sell my Tesla. And not for any reasons, just I don't have a charger where I'm at and it's all this stuff. But the valuation of my car has gone tremendously down. It is what it is. But that's why Grok is at where it's at, and they're building more data centers. And I have two friends that they're telling me some amazing stuff coming out of what's going to come out in Grok 3.5. Oof. You'll see.
I need to jump in for a second and share some details about a special group that we've created for you, our listeners. We understand the importance of creativity in cybersecurity, and Hacker Valley has created a special Cyber Creators Mastermind. Each month, we meet and discuss how to break down technical concepts through stories, the intricacies and opportunities of using audio and video to highlight what's important in cybersecurity, and we share how you can use content to highlight the hard work that you put into your craft. You can check out the mastermind by visiting hackervalley.com/mastermind. We'd love to help unlock your creative potential and would love to see you there. I wonder what it would take for me, and also what it would take for you to switch to a new model. What do you need to see that would make you say, all right, Grok 3, buy, OpenAI, buy, I'm going to use this? What kind of features?
Here's another prediction. What you're seeing now is models that are very specific. So like, what is Claude known for right now? They're coding. They're coding. Exactly. You're not going to go there to write an essay. You're not going to go there to do some general. You're definitely not going to go there and get the latest market data. So I think you're going to have that. You're going to have something general, like a open AI model to write a paragraph or whatever. We've had many conversations of how slow Pro is. Like GPT Pro is so slow it's unusable. Now you do that when it goes to Grok 3, everything is fast, lightning, smooth. How do you compete against that? He has the data centers. He built that data center and I mean, the founder of NVIDIA said no one else could build what and do what he has done. This is not hyperbole. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. He's built it. He's created what he has created, and I can't see anyone else taking his crown, because the next model is going to be better. The access to real-time data, real fast-time, real-time data with Twitter. Like, I get my news from Twitter. I didn't even know like something happened this morning. I was looking all over like Google and everything, and I couldn't find anything written on it, but people obviously knew about it, had videos about like a certain conflict that was going on. So he has the real-time data. You train your models, you reiterate it through, you bring, even if it's Gronk 3.2, it's going to be better. And I am telling you, once the API, which I next time whenever we get back on, I'm going to get that information. I'm going to speak to my contacts. I'm going to be like, look, I'm getting on a podcast and I need to know when it's going to be released. Give me a month.
The API.
Even if it's Q3. So I could give you guys the inside scoop. I got connections. I got my ear to the ground. I'm hearing everything, not only on Twitter, not only on Spaces, personal friends. Like I said, Gronk 3 to me is it. But when it comes to coding, you have to go with Sonnet. And then you have your general write this better for me with ChatGPT.
So it sounds like, and I like your answer, because what you're essentially saying is every tool has a purpose. Every tool has a job.
Absolutely.
You could have a primary, but you'll still likely use them all.
Yeah. And if you are a brokey, you don't have money, you don't have a job, you can run DeepSeek. You can run Olama. So everyone's in this game. Make your iterations. You could use DeepSeek and run it locally if you're a brokey. You can use tools, get Windsurf, the free version, hack it up. I think you have to hack things and be innovative. And then how do I tie things in? It's amazing, dude. And here's the other thing about a lot of these frontier companies. They're running through their capital. There's a lot of money being spent. So they're trying to innovate all the time on how they could go ahead and figure out them generating money. So like Anthropic now is targeting enterprises instead of just mass consumer adoption, because they know you could get more money. So, they fundraised $3.5 billion, which gave them a valuation of $60 billion. So what? You're not going to get people paying $20 a pop and really make money that's going to show like, oh, wow. I think gone are the days that you don't make money anymore and you just keep on having these fake numbers.
You know what gone are the days as well? Mm-hmm. People actually being complete in their research. Now that there's features like deep search and deep research, or whatever you want to call it for the tool of your choice, it seems like there's less and less of a need to do it ourselves. I feel like that's an amazing thing, but also a little bit scary, because honestly, I'm at a point in my career where I've learned so many fundamental foundational skills in cyber. I could read cyber books for leisure rather than to be very specific of me acquiring a new skill, because I have my experience that I can lean back on in some instances. And then when I don't, I have AI. And I allow the AI to do a lot of my talking for me, especially when I'm writing code. Like when I'm writing code, I've hit my head against the keyboard, but now I'm like, let the AI do that. Why would I do that? There's a reason why you would, but I feel like with AI, there's 10 reasons why you wouldn't.
100%. And I think experience matters. So when I see something, I look at it always through a security lens. Right. I'm definitely jaded when it comes to cybersecurity, but I look at something where you have all of these, increase autonomy with these AI agents that are becoming more capable of operating independently every day. Like every week, something else drops, right? Making it like really complex where these organizations have to make a decision. Do I invest millions or get left behind? whether you're a consumer or your organization, especially people like over the last 6 months, I've spoken to many cybersecurity folks and they haven't implemented, AI into their workflows. And I'm like, you're going to get left behind. You have skill sets. You want to 10x yourself every 3 months when it comes to like, just imagine, Ron, 3 months ago to now, how what's like it's like a growth spurt when you're a teenager. Things are happening. Things are moving fast. You're writing 30,000 lines of code in a weekend. You have to wake up. You have to make sure that you implement and have widespread adoption, not just on your day to day, but through your emails, through your phones. It has to be integrated.
Mic drop. Mic drop right there. Experience matters, but using AI might matter a bit more right now. Because if you don't have the experience, you have AI teach it to you, or you can have it do it on your behalf.
Yeah. Yeah. And the good thing for all of us in cybersecurity, you got to understand we have a place here because the focus on security and privacy is lagging. And it is our jobs as practitioners to go in there and not stop them because you don't want to be that guy. But hey, have you thought of this? Okay, let's put that on the roadmap because they're going to be like, F off, get out of here. All you want to do is stop us. Hey, we're going to put that on the roadmap. It's going to, these AI agents are becoming more prevalent. There's a growing like emphasis on addressing these security vulnerabilities and privacy risks associated. There's a lot more questions being asked. When you ask questions, you need the answers. And that's what you're seeing right now. Release, questions. Eventually, it's going to be questions before the release. So it's a good time to be alive.
So down to the matter at hand, agents. Marco, I want to say that there was something that I showed you, and I'll walk everybody through it, but there's something that I showed you the other day that I never seen you this mind blown. And I showed someone else. I actually just had Marcus Carey on, who we both know. Just had Marcus Carey on, and I talked to him a little bit about this workflow, and then ultimately I told him the same thing, and his mind was blown. But what this workflow is, in a nutshell, is creating a master plan for your AI. And instead of making one giant plan file, you will make multiple separate plans, kind of like you would with a cybersecurity project. You're not going to try to solve cybersecurity. You're going to try to solve for phishing first, and then endpoint, and then network, and then maybe cloud. You break these down into smaller files, and then knock out things one step at a time. But go ahead, Marco. I see that you're ready.
I'm itching. I am itching because, and this got to be clipped. Perhaps this might be the most important thing that you potentially learn this year. When I seen this, not only was my mind blown, but it allowed me to like see what I can do with just this like process, this structure. It is a complete game changer. And now, before you go into that, I want to go into something else that is going to lead into what you're doing, because I wanted to talk about this, and it is along the same lines as your process. Because when you show your process, it's all about the spend, because eventually you're going to spend hitting these APIs like Senet 3.7. And I would argue that China, Alibaba, just cut 85% reduction in access costs to their AI models, following DeepSeek's big cut. So all of these AIs in America, Anthropic, as well as OpenAI, they're going to have to follow suit, or they're going to lose a lot of market share to Alibaba, because it's all about the money. And if you're giving me access to Gwen, DeepSeek, and it's just along the same line, not better, but along the same line, at 85% reduction, guess what's going to happen? Everybody's going to start going over there. And let me tell you something. I'm going to tell you this now, and this is the prediction of the year. When Grok brings out and releases their AI, the entire game changes. Mark my words.
Here's the breakdown. I'm going to try to break it down. This is a show that you typically listen to. We do have a YouTube page, so you can pull this up as well on YouTube and just follow along. But what I do is I create a plan. And this is something that I learned from being a security architect. First, you create the plan and then you do engineering. But in a perfect world, you'd probably get requirements from someone. In this case, if you're doing AI coding or using cybersecurity, and we're using AI in cybersecurity, you're probably the architect and the engineer. So what I do is I create a README file. This README file has information about my project. It's got information about my ultimate goal. It's kind of got a vision for where I want to take things. And where I do things differently is I have AI help write my READMEs. So if I have an idea, I'm trying to create a new tool, I'll write out part of it, and then I'll ask the AI to help me finish my README, my project plan, essentially. And then after I do that, now it has context about what I'm trying to build. I tell it, hey, create a new file now. And this new file is going to be the first batch of features. The big difference of what I do, of what I've seen other people do, is I have it create a checklist, a markdown checklist, and then I instruct the AI to give me the information back, whether it be information or code, give it to me back one item at a time from the checklist. That really does a good job of preventing it from hallucinating, focusing on a narrow task rather than being very general, because we see that's not where AI is the best at. And it does it task by task, and that gives me a little bit more of an opportunity to provide feedback. I look at this task by task bit that it's doing for me kind of like you would have a DSU, a daily stand-up with your team. They're giving you this and this and this, and you have the opportunity to say, nope, I don't want that. Give me something else. And that's exactly what I'm doing with AI and my prompts right now. And I think that is how I'm ultimately going to make this year of the agents a possibility for myself.
Let me unpack what he just said. And I'm going to give you a better detail, a working detail that you and I was having a conversation, right? And we were working on a coding project. And he's like, hey, what features do you think I need in this? And he pops open a recorder that does translation right there. And we have a conversation of features that we would want to see on the dashboard. He then takes this summary, copies it, puts it into your cursor. For me, it would be Windsurf. And he modifies it. And then you go to what he just said about the README file. Do you understand how awesome that is? And then on top of that, the additional files that he were creating were blowing my mind because it was so on point. And his process was, I've never seen it before. I've seen many videos on YouTube. The one that he was using, it's hard to blow my mind. And that one is a game changer. And by the way, Marcus Curry said the same thing. So you have two people that are certified Gs said the same thing. It was something that will completely, I hope you do a quick tutorial, a side note, something to provide people value, and just looking over your shoulder, because it was something like that completely changes the way you think overnight. And you were popping out 30 lines of code a day.
30K lines of code over a weekend, which is absolutely crazy.
Which is diabolical, because last year in March, it took me 7,000 lines of code. It took me over a month to do. You were doing 30 in one day. That's a full-blown project. So listen, as the prices go down and Grok releases their API, which I don't even know when they're going to do it. But if they do it, or when they do it, there's a whole nother level that you're going to see in terms of output. and things that I'm seeing, I cannot believe. So I'm excited. There's been predictions that at the end of this year, both from Anthropic as well as OpenAI, by the end of the year, the AIs that they've developed will be on PhD level or senior developers on that level of coding.
It's gotta be. We covered a lot on this episode. I think it would only be right for us to go back again, come back again stronger next month, and let's do some more visuals. Because I mean, we did a lot of concept, a lot of theory.
Mm-hmm.
I think that this next month is going to be really about implementation.
I think in the next few months, I think there has to be examples, and there has to be showing these techniques. The other thing that you have to think of is within the next 2 or 3 months, you're going to see these enhanced capabilities on collaboration, right? Because you and I, we get on Zoom and we collaborate and we do the sharing of screens and look at this technique. And did you think about this and that? So how do you seemingly, increasingly work alongside your fellow employee, your fellow friend, assisting in specific tasks, such as not drafting emails, but like coding assistance? Did you think of this, but on a different level? That's like brainstorming. How can we collaborate? So yeah, we're going to have to show and tell.
Show and tell. Marco, thank you again for jumping on. We're going to have to do this again in the very next month. And with that, we will see everyone next time.